Seasons of the Ukulele, 162. Desert Island Discs. This is the Ballad of Harbo and Samuelson. I am going to do this. In Brooklyn, New York, at the turn of the century, lived two young Norwegians, so brave and so bold. Frank Samuelson was only halfway through 20s. George Harbo, he just become 30 years old. Harbo had spent all his life on the water. He'd shipped in square riggers when only a lad. His partner likewise was no stranger to working. No matter the task, he gave all that he had. That year a rich publisher offered a challenge, that men in the vessel, no matter the size, couldn't cross the Atlantic without steam or canvas. $10,000 he named as the prize. Now dredging the oysters by hand is no picnic. These two Norwegians were tough as a whip. Says Frank, if we only row 4 miles an hour, in 54 days we could finish the trip. We'll see you in France or we'll see you in heaven, cried Harbo and Samuelson out on the bay. Two hardy young oystermen after adventure, and no one believed they could row all the way. Obtaining a sponsor, they started their training. They ordered a dory of cedar and oak, just 18 feet long with a draft of 8 inches. And Fox was the name of their Cockleshell boat. On the 6th day of June, 1896, Messrs. Harbo and Samuelson started to row. They took food and water to last until August, and the newspaper said they were foolish to go. We'll see you in France or we'll see you in heaven, cried Harbo and Samuelson out on the bay. Two hardy young oystermen after adventure, and no one believed they could row all the way. From the slips of Manhattan they rode through the Narrows, out onto the Gulf Stream and over the deep. Each day they would row 18 hours together. At night they took turns getting 3 hours sleep. Their stove wouldn't light, so they ate cold provisions. Their arms and their legs became swollen and cramped. The odd passing vessel that took them on board was their only relief from the cold and the damp. Then out on the Grand Banks the weather attacked them. The wind humped the water to monstrous waves. They lashed down their oars and they tied on their lifelines, and they prayed they were not going straight to their graves. We'll see you in France or we'll see you in heaven, cried Samuels and Harbo out on the bay. Two hardy young oystermen after adventure, and no one believed they could row all the way. Then out on the dark came a monstrous wave, capsizing the Fox and her terrified crew. Their lifelines held fast, but they lost half their water, and most of their food it was swept away too. They carefully rationed the little remaining, praying for help as they roared o'er the brine. Then out in the distance they spied a tall ship, with the colors of Norway a-floating behind. The captain could not be convinced they weren't crazy, but he gave them supplies and they went on their way. By the lines on the charts they were halfway to Europe, but now they must row 60 miles every day. We'll see you in France or we'll see you in heaven, cried Harbo and Samuelson out on the bay. Two hardy young Oystermen out for adventure, and no one believed they could row all the way. The weather held fair and the two men kept pulling, all through each long day and far into each night. Then early one morning before the sun rose, out on the horizon they spotted a light. On August the 1st they made land off St. Mary's, south coast of England just by Bishop's Rock. In amazement the townfolk they gathered by the water, where Harbo and Samuelson barely could walk. Most men would have stopped then and basked in the glory, after having been sunbeaten, capsized, and they starved. But they're both in the boat early next morning, and less than a week they arrived at the Harve. We'll see you in France or we'll see you in heaven, cried Harbo and Samuelson out on the bay. Two hardy young oystermen out for adventure, and no one believed they could row all the way. So those of you listening who yearn for adventure, like Harbo and Samuelson so long ago, like them be prepared for the task you are facing. They not only were brave, but by God they could row. We'll see you in France or we'll see you in heaven, cried Harbo and Samuelson out on the bay. Two hardy young oystermen out for adventure, and no one believed they could row all the way. See you in France or we'll see you in heaven, cried Harbo and Samuelson out on the bay. Two hardy young oystermen out for adventure, and no one believed they could row